Welcome to Bird Camp Radio, where the coveys rise from the high pines, marsh valleys, sagebrush seas, and the shelf rock ledges. Here at camp, the fire's always glowing, the dogs are never far, and the stories of birds, wild places, and the upland life are just beginning. This is Bird Camp Radio. Before we get into today's episode, I want to thank a company Rachel and I personally trust, Pet Commute. We have worked with them several times ourselves, and I can tell you firsthand, they are reliable, safe, punctual, and they give frequent transport updates. That peace of mind matters, especially when it's your dog. If you're a breeder, buyer, trainer, running field dog trials, traveling to a hunt, or honestly just need to get a pet somewhere safely, Pet Commute is a perfect fit for bird dog folks. They offer free transportation quotes, and make sure to mention Bird Camp Radio to get 10% off your pet's travel. Check the link in the show notes, our social media bios, or the comments. I highly recommend them. Welcome back, everyone, to the Bird Camp Radio podcast. We're excited to be with you today for our episode 26 with Alec Hummel. Alec sent in his bio just a little bit earlier, and I'm going to read that for us real quick. Alec Hummel grew up in the swamps of Louisiana chasing deer and ducks, where his passion for hunting first began. Everything changed when a Deutsch Drahthaar entered his life, opening the door to a true versatile hunting and shaping the path he follows today. Now based in Kansas, Alec travels across the Midwest pursuing upland birds and whatever game his dogs produce. A self-described rough shooter at heart, he embraces any opportunity the hunt provides, whether it's pheasants, woodcock, rabbits, squirrels, raccoons, or even the occasional coyote. If his dogs point it, track it, or bay it, he is ready to hunt it. For Alec, hunting is about more than the pursuit of game. It's about the connection with his dogs, the land, and putting organic, wild food on the table for his family. While Kansas pheasants have become his current obsession, nothing compares to swinging on a woodcock in the Louisiana swamps where his journey first began. Everyone, that's Alec. Alec, we're excited to have you on. How are you, man?
Good, how are you?
Hey, we're doing good. Hey, we're excited to have you on here today. But before we get started, we want to play that quick game of rapid fire around the campfire with you. For everyone, or for the new ones around here, you know how it goes. We play a quick game of rapid fire around the campfire, which consists of 10 questions that are related to upland game. And these questions are timed. We do have a leaderboard. So the faster you answer, the better off you are on the leaderboard at the end, and we will release that time at the end of the episode, so stay tuned. So if you don't have any questions, Alec, we'll get started.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Ready, set, go. Favorite wild bird to chase?
Pheasants.
Most challenging bird?
Pheasants.
Favorite dog trait?
Versatility.
Best bird for eating?
I shouldn't have paused on that one. Ducks.
Go-to field snack?
Jerky.
Dream hunting destination?
Idaho, right?
Favorite month to hunt?
Favorite what?
Favorite month to hunt?
Ooh, I like Januaries.
Game bag or vest?
Final rise.
Solo hunt or with a group?
By myself.
Lead or still shot?
Lead.
There we go. That's all 10 questions. How was that?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Man, if I wouldn't have paused on the best one to eat, man, I could make argument because I'll eat birds that people don't think are good. People say sharp tail aren't good, and I love them. So that's subjective. That to me, man, it's and people say I don't like ducks, but or ducks are gamey. But again, you gotta be able to cook it.
Hey, that's right. If you know how to cook it, I think you're good. I think you can make about anything taste good at the end of the day, personally.
Right, right.
Hey, well, we're excited to have you on, and get to kind of get to know you here on the podcast. For the people listening, if you haven't listened before, and even just a refresher for the people who do, this is a podcast where we really like to focus on the bio of each one of our guests. Um, so what we're going to do is just really break that down and get to know you, and who you are, and why you chose upland game and hunting in general. So kind of just going back to it. I mean, you have a background of a hunting journey, where it all kind of started back in the Louisiana swamps. Do you want to take us back there and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, and you say like why hunting in general, and that's for me, and I'm learning that this isn't the case for everybody, but for me, I grew literally when I say grew up hunting. Like my mother has like stories of getting upset about my dad taking me to sit in a box stand to hunt deer, like too young and too cold weather. So I shot my first deer. I don't want to lie to you and say four because I'm pretty sure it was five. But either way, shot a deer at five, shot another one at six. So I think I shot two my second year. For a long time, I could count and tell you about every deer I shot. But my father is just an avid whitetail hunter, and I say whitetail because I know that's different for us in Louisiana. That's just deer. We don't have that's what we just have deer. We don't have different types of deer. And for a long time, man, until pretty recently, we weren't even worried about the horns. And I say we, that's pretty general, but just Louisiana deer genetics aren't quite what they are in a lot of other parts of the country. And Louisiana has a history of hunting for food, right? And so we just haven't had great deer genetics paired with poor hunting practices or poor conservation practices led to small deer. Now that's changed, I would say, probably the past 15 years, but and some pockets are starting to grow some really nice deer, and it's really impressive. But so that's kind of the why hunting in a real general sense, man. It's just it's something that it's something my father's done, something all my uncles. My father grew up in a big Catholic family in Louisiana with seven or eight brothers and sisters. And so they all hunted. My father was introduced to it by his father and all his brothers. He's got stories of keeping my uncle's bird dogs. He had and that's all he called them. That's all they really were back then. And I think they were GSPs. But while my uncle went and fought in Vietnam, and so he said, he was like, I didn't know what to do with the dogs, so I just take him out to the camp, just let him run for about an hour, and he'd be good. And so but they ran beagles on rabbits for years and years and years. Louisiana ran beagles on rabbits and deer. They still run deer dogs in Louisiana. A lot of other parts of the country don't. But man, they ran beagles or beagles until rabbits didn't exist. And I didn't see a wild rabbit until I was probably 15 years old.
Wow.
Um, they're making quite a comeback, and I say they like it's a combination of poor hunting practices and farming practices and different things. But it wasn't just like where we hunted; that was statewide. Just the rabbit kind of got hunted up, and so those are also making a little bit of a comeback, mostly because everybody got rid of their beagles. Everybody's like, I don't want beagle dogs if I can't find rabbits, right?
Right.
Not the funnest dog to own if they're not doing something for you. Yappy pack of beagles in the yard that cost a ton. I shouldn't say cost a ton to feed, but people that have beagle dogs for rabbits, they usually have 10, 15 of as many as they can get. So it's just something I've been around forever. My father deer hunted and duck hunted a little bit, and I got into duck hunting a lot, especially as I was coming into like my teenage years. But yeah, so that was kind of always what I did. I had Labradors that I used for duck hunting, and I had a Labrador that I thought had hip dysplasia, and turned out she didn't have hip dysplasia. She had two torn ACLs that we ended up rehabbing. But
Wow.
I decided I wanted another dog and started doing some research. And I was trying to find dogs with some pretty good health clearances, just because the hip thing in Labradors, it's a really bad deal. It's really sad to see. Uh, Even though I didn't even know what it was. And I came across a Deutsch Drahthaar, which we'll say Deutsch, I suppose, because that's how they say it in Germany. But uh, you know, my goal was to get a dog I could blood track with and hunt ducks with. And so I was like, get one of these dogs. And so I get it. They've got this really expansive testing system where they do performance testing. They do coat and conformation testing very extensively just to make sure the dog's built correctly. Almost similar to Westminster trotting around in a circle deal, except they're looking for traits for a hunting dog, right? So we're looking for um, the angulation on their back end to be correct so that they can last 10, 15 years. Because if you're hunting a dog in pretty rigorous conditions, they need the bone structure to do that.
Right.
And so that was all really attractive to me. I love standardization, right? And so basically they standardized dogs, and I was like, that works great. I love that. And that's how I got into the Deutsch Drahthaar, which, like I said, was initially for blood tracking and ducks. And then as I get into this testing system, I start finding out, all right, these dogs have to, the point, they're really good upland dogs. And they also have to be able to track rabbits. That's a huge deal in Germany. And so for the puppy test, that's all there is to it. It's a rabbit track. It's 2 rabbit tracks and a point and a bird. And they do that in their first spring of their life. So if the dog's born after October, it'll do it the following, the second spring, technically. But if it's born before October, October to October is the breeding year. Then they test in that following spring. And they had to go do what a puppy, one of these puppies should be able to do, which is point a bird and track. And so that's how I got into the upland side of it, was kind of through this testing process of like, all right, now I got to figure out how to train these dogs to point birds. So I go through that process with my first dog and messed him up for a long time until I kind of knew what I was doing. I was real super familiar with all the retrieving aspects of it. Could force fetch a dog, could train a dog to felt like I could train an iguana to retrieve something. But didn't know how to teach a dog to point, which I now don't think you teach a dog to point. I think a dog knows how to point and you let it learn. But I digress. So sorry if I'm kind of off on a tangential about these dogs, but I suppose it's kind of important because, man, it really shaped my life. So I got these dogs and got into hunting woodcock in Louisiana. That's the only real upland game we have. Woodcock, and I'd occasionally bump a rabbit. And so got into woodcock hunting, started kind of traveling for hunting, wanting to take my dogs places. Went up to Montana, South Dakota, and been back to South Dakota quite a few times. That's kind of my thing. And one of those trips, we went to Hutchinson, Kansas. I went and met some buddies from Missouri in Hutchinson. And we hunted. It was a good time. We killed. I'm trying to think. We killed mostly quail on that trip. I think we found 1 pheasant, ton of rabbits. Had a really good time. And then it's funny, man. About 2 years ago, I got the idea I was going to go back to school in my late 20s and go to law school. And so my wife and I had talked, and I had a young child at the time, 2-year-old, and we were looking at different places to possibly go to school. And we pretty much decided we weren't super interested in going to Baton Rouge, which I had done a master's degree in Baton Rouge. And I had started my undergrad degree in Baton Rouge and, love Baton Rouge, love LSU more than anything in the world. Probably the only thing I love almost as much as I love hunting with dogs and my children and wife is LSU sports. So that was a big decision. And we were like, but it just, as far as our family and our kids, it made sense to possibly go somewhere else. just Louisiana education system's not the best. There's a lot of flaws there. And quite frankly, I'd always said I was going to move somewhere not so hot every single summer. I'd be like, man, I got to move somewhere that's not so hot. I don't know how far south you've ever been in the summer, but whatever you think is hot, I'm sure it is. I'm not saying that it's not, but when you add 98, 99% humidity and 100-degree days for days on end, it's just oppressive, like awful heat, man.
Humidity hits different.
Yeah. So, man, the Louisiana summer, dude, is not like anything I feel like you can really explain to people. And I say that because I said I was always going to leave, and man, we did. So I applied to a bunch of schools throughout the Midwest because I was like, man, I was thinking about my wife. We had gone on a trip to Montana, and she had just exploring the country. She loved it. She's like, we got to go, see some, do something different for a while. I was like, okay. I was like, well, that trip to Hutchinson was pretty cool. It's not too far from Louisiana. It's about 9 hours. I was like, we could go to, you know, Kansas and we'd be close enough to home and there's plenty to do. We can hunt, be with the dogs, do all the different stuff. It's got a great education system. So I applied to a couple of schools here and in Iowa and really Nebraska and all around, Colorado, everywhere. Um, but I got into two schools in Kansas and we came up here and visited and looked at one school and we're like, oh, this is the place. And we drove over about 30 minutes to a different one and we're like, all right, that's it. And we loved the city. It was great for our kids. It was just a great, great deal for us. And so we've been up here about a year, really finishing up the first school year in Kansas. So I just had my first full hunting season of hunting, having a full hunting season living in the Midwest. Our woodcock season's 45 days. And that's not too rough on a dog. Duck season down there will beat a dog up. But I learned pretty quick what hunting, some pretty serious conditions. And really it goes back to that coat and conformation thing I was talking about with the dogs. For a long time I always thought, and I shouldn't say long time I always thought, but for a point, it was like these old timers in this dog club are putting a lot into this coat conformation, you're more worried about a hunting dog that'll hunt, right? And then I own a few different dogs with different types of coats, rated with different scores. And I'll be dang if the scores at the end of the season, I could show you pictures, man, and they are reflective, how beat up the dog is in terms of cuts and how thin their chest is. And then also it's really reflective throughout the season hunting with it too. You see it, just in the dog when it's 5 degrees and you got one dog that's rolling in the snow to cool off, and you got one that wants to has so much drive it won't quit, but its teeth are chattering and its legs are shaking. It don't want to sit down, and it's a direct reflection of coat, So all of these dogs and all of most bird dogs have all the drive and hunt ability in the world. And so I really think breeding the dogs that need to be bred genetically and from a coat and conformation standpoint are really important. There's plenty of good hunting dogs out there. That's not hard to find. If you want to make dogs better, you've got to kind of focus on things that you can make better. And something that, we try to focus on with these dogs at least is their coat and the way they're built. So uh, yeah, we've been like I said, we've been in Kansas for about a year. We went back one time to Louisiana, and I just made it for the front end of woodcock season, which is never great. Usually the birds aren't down there yet. Woodcock are a super interesting bird. You know anything about woodcock?
I know just a little bit, not a whole lot. I've never had the opportunity to hunt them. I like watching videos, and I mean they seem difficult.
Yeah, that's a challenge. So I didn't know this, but Louisiana is like the number one migration location in the country for 'em. I didn't know this until I had one of these dogs.
Oh wow.
And somebody posted that, posted like a limited woodcock. It was like 3 woodcock and a dog that looked like a Drahthaar. And I messaged him and he wasn't far from me. I said, "Is that a Drahthaar?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Will you teach me how to hunt those birds?" And he said, "Sure." And so met up with him and really became good buddies with the guy. And he helped me with training my dog. He had 2 Drahthaars at the time. I think he's got about 4 now. I think one may have died, but um, and his father had him for a long time, and he was right there in town. He was 30 minutes, not even 30 minutes from me. And man, he taught me, showed me how to hunt woodcock on public land. And dude, it's the craziest thing. I lived however many years, 20 years, and didn't know these birds existed. Got one of these dogs and was finding limits of them on my own property, on our
Wow.
own property that we didn't even know. And I'd asked my dad about him. He said, "Yeah, you'll see them flying over late in the evening, because they fly a lot at night. And so if they're flying in the evening, they're getting up to kind of migrate. They're getting to get up and go somewhere, or to go to a field and eat. They go eat on the edges of fields. They eat worms. That's why they've got the long beak." Uh, but they start off in Canada in different places, and they migrate down, almost a similar central flyway and then eastern flyway for ducks. Not They're not so stuck to the river as ducks, but uh, they're more so. They're running from the freeze. When the cold freezes up the ground and they can't probe for earthworms, they fly further south and they end up in Louisiana. And usually early in the season, you'll find you might not. So I was talking about the heat. Do you happen to remember the temperature um, on Christmas Day this past year, wherever you were? Where were you?
I'm here in Utah. Oh man, I'm trying to think. We've been warmer than we typically have been. I mean, we were probably, I'd guess, high 30s, mid 40s, possibly.
Okay, so I mean that's still that's warmer. It was in the mid upper 70s in
Woo!
northeast Louisiana this past year. And I was telling my buddy from here in Kansas in Lawrence. I'm at the University of Kansas in Lawrence. I'm in eastern Kansas. Not the best bird hunting spot, but I can get places quick. But I was telling him, he's from Kansas City suburbs. I said, "Man, I don't think you realize the temperature difference, dude." And when I drove down, I left. So I actually left South Dakota and I stopped in Kansas and then finished in Louisiana. And I left South Dakota and it was in teens or single digits. And it was 82 when I got to Louisiana. This is December.
Wow.
So this was right before Christmas, because that's what we went down for. So the birds, I say all that to say the woodcock aren't down yet, but so too neither are the ducks, which is what's killed a lot of the duck hunting, and really big reason why I got into upland hunting so much. The duck hunting down there has also gotten bad. And to give you some context of where I'm from, if you've ever heard of Duck Dynasty or Phil Robertson or Duck Command or any of that, and I'm sure you have, that's where I'm. Like, it's quite literally, I played ball with uh, Jace Robertson's kid and played ball against all of the kids for a long time.
Really? Oh, that's
So
sweet.
like from that city, right? And they'll even talk about it. Like, go look at all their stuff. They're going to Kansas and Oklahoma and other places to really hunt greenheads because they're not getting. And they own a ton of land, and it's all connected really close to the river. So they're able to have water when nobody else does, and like they have the duck hunting, and they're going elsewhere to hunt ducks specifically. So just the duck hunting really is dried up, and people scream at the sky about different stuff. I always joke and tell them they put up a big net. So they didn't do heated ponds; they just put a net down. But it's so yeah. So hunting chasing woodcock's pretty fun, but it wasn't good this year when I was down there. So I unfortunately didn't get to kill any. And you also talk about a bird that people don't think tastes great. People say woodcock aren't the best eating birds, and it's because they're actually just like sharptail. They're just a dark meat bird. So you got to do. I always say Chinese or Mexican on hide any dark meat bird. Enough Chinese or Mexican or cream cheese and jalapenos and bacon. You can make anything taste good with that.
Oh yeah.
Make a popper with it. You know, you can call it what is a pheasant popper. Like now you just wrap some bacon in. There's bacon and pheasant or bacon and jalapeno and a little pheasant, and it's good. It's absolutely good, but bacon and cream cheese, jalapeno and make any kind of meat. You could eat possum like that. So um we don't eat possum in Louisiana. I've had people joke. Get this: the first dog event, or probably the second dog event I ever went to, was in Illinois. Dog test, and they were doing a BTR, is what it's called, which is just a retrieving reliability test. You put a piece of dead game in the woods, and you send the dog. The dog doesn't see it get put, and there's no trail. So the dog just really has to go search the woods, go find the dead game, and it's usually a raccoon or a fox. And they had the fox, and he looked at me, and he saw the Louisiana players like Louisiana's like or a raccoon. He's like, "You want this raccoon?" And I was like, "No, dude, we don't." Yeah, people eat raccoons, but it's not just like
We don't do that.
yeah, we're just normal people, man. But yeah, so that sorry, I know that was a lot. I don't know if that answered kind of your first question.
No, that's good. I've kind of I've kind of seen that myself. So I lived in Tennessee for a year, and I had some ideas of what Tennessee was like, and a lot of people were like, "Yeah, we don't do that, man." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay."
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
just pretty. So we're pretty normal. Like for the most part, people like we have drive-through liquor stores and like drive-through like daiquiri shops. That's really commonplace. Like you can buy a drink in a cup through a drive-through. But yeah, besides that, and we eat a lot of things that have like weird names, but it's really normal food. It just has a French name.
got the
So.
French to it. That makes sense. Well, that's good to know. I don't know much about Louisiana. I'd love to get down there at some point, but it'd be a lot of fun, I think.
Man, so I'm not trying to sit here and talk disparagingly about Louisiana hunting. It's just it's a lot different than it is in a lot of other parts of the country. Now, with all that said, everybody there hunts. Everybody hunts. Everybody is very invested. It's a family affair. Um, it's a like I said, it's very ingrained in you. Um, And there's some world class things to do in Louisiana. Go to South Louisiana and shoot teal, you know, just about on the Gulf. Yeah, like that's some good hunting. Shooting teal on the Gulf, that's like or close to the Gulf in the marsh. That's fun. Go catch redfish. Yeah, that's real like you can do some stuff that you can't really do anywhere else in the world. Now we have some massive largemouth bass, massive bass. So lots of cool stuff to do, but not upland hunting unless you're into the resurging rabbit population or woodcock hunting, which I think I know about every woodcock hunter in Louisiana. There's not many of us floating around.
Not many. Hey, that's all right. More to you. So, what was it kind of like making that transition then from like Louisiana to Kansas? Like, I mean, terrain-wise, it's got to be quite different, isn't it?
Yeah, man. I shouldn't say there's no trees. So I'll also preface with this: I didn't successfully kill a deer in my first Kansas deer season, which is a huge miss. But I was hunting public land like around town, and I went about 3 times. I didn't give it a very valiant effort. I plan to next year. So mostly, and even that, I guess I could really speak on that with the deer hunting. So here's a big difference with deer hunting in Louisiana is it's almost all baited. Everything baiting's legal. There's some CWD stuff going on, so baiting's getting shut down in certain parishes. But baiting's legal, so it's a lot of baiting and deer coming to you, really, and you just hoping you're at the right stand at the right time. And up here, hunting public land, you can bait on private land in Kansas, but you can't on public. So I'm hunting public land, um, and I walked around. I took my dogs quite a bit looking for rabbits and found some kind of in my deer scouting efforts. And I couldn't figure out where to hunt. So like that's the difference for you is I'm looking around going like, where are the deer at? Because it's so there's no
So
trees. It's
different.
so flat, or it's just there's tree lines and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I see these tree lines, but how many deer can be holed up in these like where are they, right? And so just kind of learning pinch points and different things like that has been interesting. And I say learning, not that I didn't know what that was, but having to operate with that stuff, like having to use it. So for us, it's like, all right, we can kind of funnel them through this area and stop them here with corn. We just got to stop them for a second to shoot them with a rifle, right? It's not the most like hunting fair chase thing in the world. Yeah, so it just a lot of trying to figure out how to, just really figure out where the deer want to be, not just kind of where they're traveling and where can I catch them at certain times. As far as the hunting upland stuff, man, like I said, the ones that took it the most were my dogs. So going from hunting, woodcock and thick briars and not fun stuff, but these drahthaars have, really wiry, bristly coats. They eat that stuff up, pretty well, and it doesn't wear them down. These cattails and these native grasses, waist high to me and over their head, that beats them up a lot. And I really should say it's just them too, because I walked a whole lot more and I was pretty beat up at the end of the season too, just from the up and down. But just you're in different. It's a wildly different type of terrain. Yeah, here's one thing you might find kind of interesting or haven't thought of. I got a lot more used to toting around a ton of water, not just when I was hunting, but also just anytime I took the dogs out. In Louisiana, you can find a pretty good puddle to cool your dogs off in and get them some water just about anywhere. I mean, it's got to be a significant drought to not have water anywhere. And so like I would be woodcock hunting and come up on like a fallen pine tree, and where that root ball would come up, it'd be a little tiny pond, right? And I'd put the dogs in that and let them cool off and then go about my way hunting. Not so much like that here in Kansas. Very rare to find a body of water to put a dog down in to cool off. More so just me giving them water out of the vest.
That makes sense. So, what's it been like for like the bird change? I mean, you were hunting woodcock, and now you're hunting a lot of pheasant. What's that been like?
Man, for the dogs, a big learning curve. For me, a big learning curve too. Um, so woodcock hold really, really well. Like they call quail the gentleman's bird. Like a woodcock is the true gentleman's bird. They're great for training puppies with. They hold so well, but they will flush. Like a dog can't catch it, but boy, they can get close. Um, you not say that. I'm sure a dog can catch it, but it'd be a rare occasion. Um, and I don't know how much pheasant hunting you've done. I assume a decent amount. And so the pheasant aren't so like that. And so one of my dogs figured them out a lot quicker. And so here's the thing too is that was like I said, I would go up to Montana and go over to South Dakota, and we hunted a lot of pheasants, but there's a difference in going and hunting for 10 days and or 5 days in South Dakota and hunting every weekend and 4 or 5 days a week in Kansas every single or in South Dakota or wherever you have wild birds and those types of numbers, right? Um, and so the pheasants really train the dogs a lot more this year. Generally my experience is go up to South Dakota and I spend about 2 or 3 days of the dogs figuring out how to pin roosters again. And then I spend the last two, and then if I'm staying the whole 10, 7 days or so with the dogs really hunting them. Whereas this year I spent opening weekend with the dogs figuring them out. And then by Sunday afternoon, the dogs had figured it out. And by, a month in, they looked like, seasoned pheasant dogs. And it's just because they hunted. I just hunted them a lot. Uh, and so that's the difference, I guess. Like I said, the woodcock are great for taking pictures of your dog, right? Like a woodcock will hold and you can walk up and get good angles. And I've got some really cool pictures of dogs on point and backing and all kinds of stuff in the woods. And it's because that woodcock will sit there forever. The pheasant, if I take a picture of the dog and then start looking for the pheasant, he's either flushed out the other end of the field or, or gone. Uh, so a little bit different there. Just the speed of things, I guess, if I break it all down. A lot faster. And we have pretty decent quail population here in Kansas too. I don't want to overlook that, but um, the quail are a little, I don't want to say easier to hunt because that's not true either. Wild quail are a tough gig. But I'm mad at the pheasants right now. I'm mad at the pheasants.
I get that. They can be a
They
pain every
made me
once in a
feel
while.
stupid a little bit too much. It also took me about a month to start hitting too, which my dogs hated me for. If they had a gun, they'd have shot me.
Turned right on you. All right, everyone. Quick shout out to our friends at Pet Commute. If you ever tried coordinating dog transport yourself, you know it's not simple. Whether it's a new pup coming home, a finished dog heading to a buyer, a field trial trip, or even, let's be honest, your wife needing her little mutt transported safely, Pet Commute handles it professionally. Rachel and I have personally transported with them, and I can confidently say they are reliable, safe, punctual, and they keep owners updated the entire trip. They offer free quotes, and if you mention Bird Camp Radio, you'll get 10% off your pet's travel. Hit the link in the show notes, comments, or our socials. No, that's awesome. So how many dogs do you have?
So I have three. I have three right now. I am in I'm hesitant to say this. I'm about to get a pup at the end of this month. So that'll be four. And my wife is pushing for a Teckle, which is a wire-haired Dotson. Um, a wire-haired Dotson is a really interesting breeding of the Dotson. It's a Dotson, uh, and I just learned this recently. I'm no subject matter expert on wire-haired Dotsons or Teckles by any means, but it's a Dotson, as you and I know, like just a weenie dog, bred with a Dandy Dinmont Terrier, which I'd never heard of, and a Drahthaar. So
Wow.
quite the pairing of dogs. In Europe they wanted to put a lot more hunt into the Dotson, is the best I can figure, and they probably got what they wanted. But my wife's wanting one of those. Look them up when you have some time. They're an interesting looking dog, and there's some really good big game trackers. And so my Drahthaars blood track really well, but they're pretty tough to blood track behind. They're pretty large. They're pulling you. Uh, so I'm kind of interested in a weenie dog blood tracker, a real deal hunting weenie dog. But I say that very joking. I think it'd be pretty interesting. So that would be five. Um, and and then I'm planning to breed a female probably at the end of the year or the next year, and I'll keep a puppy out of that. So we're about to increase really quick around here. Um, but man, a lot of it is out of necessity, right? So I hunted my pair, my trio. One of them's getting a little bit older. She's 10. Uh, and she got some nice retrieves and flushes. It was really nice this year. But I hunted them, mostly my two younger Drahthaars, and it was just the case of like I need another dog, right? Like hunting this much, or hunting that much. And what it is, man, is because I'm in law school, we get out of school like the second week of December, and we're out for a month and a half.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, well, I say a month and a half. It's over a month. It's like 5 weeks and some change. And so we packed up and just went. Like, and that's a lot of hunting too. It was a lot on the dogs. It was a lot on my knees and back and everything else, right? I'm not old, I don't think, but uh, yeah. So working on getting some more right now. We've got one planned and picked out, and the wire-haired Dotson is we're hoping for a successful breeding. They're tough to find, really tough to find.
Wow, yeah, you'll have to keep us posted on that. Send that my way because I want to see that.
Yeah, dude, they're interesting. Look, it's just what you would imagine. Like it's a little bearded weenie dog, dude. Like they look like little Drahthaars, except they're weenie dog shaped.
That
So
is
that's it.
awesome. Yeah, you'll have to send that my ways because I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
That'll be interesting.
yeah.
Well, that's really cool, man. I mean, you've been able to shift around, see some country, move to some new ground, get to learn. That's half the fun right there is being able to learn new areas, learn new terrain, learn more about your dogs too. And now you're adding to that. That sounds great. So what I want to talk about just for a minute is like the food aspect of it. I mean, in your bio, you talked a little bit about like wild game and feeding the family. What does that mean
Right.
to you with that?
So that uh, to summarize, to eat as much wild game as I can ethically and possibly harvest for me and my family. So one, I'll never forget this. When I was in kindergarten, we were having lasagna, and I went in the cafeteria line. I asked the cafeteria lady, I was like, "Is this deer meat lasagna?" And they laughed, and they're like, "No, it's not." It was because like we never bought beef. We ate deer meat for everything growing up. And like I don't come from a wealthy or poor family, just like an average middle class family, but we shot a lot of deer and we ate a lot of deer. Right? Like my dad made a lot of jerky. We ate a ton of ground meat and everything, a ton of smoked sausage and patty sausage, breakfast sausage, stuff like that. So that was really common. But then, as especially as I started traveling to hunt, and then really a lot last year too, I was able to kill enough ducks. I've been able to kill enough ducks the past few years to eat a good bit of duck. But um, in an ideal world, I would like to produce all of our own meat, right? I don't know if you, I know you have, but like store bought beef that's like pink ground meat, like that's not the color of meat,
No,
right? Like
no.
that's not it. And then another thing that I learned, and then I learned this like 6, 7 years ago, just on like Facebook, and then I did some research. A lot of countries don't have food allergies like we do in the United States, right? Like humans should not be allergic to strawberries. Like every human should be able to eat a strawberry or whatever, like in theory, right? Like you shouldn't have all these allergies. And a lot of places, people will come from other countries to the United States and develop food allergies, or vice versa. They'll leave the United States and go elsewhere and they won't have them. And what the theory is that it's pesticides, herbicides, preservatives, all kinds of stuff that we have legalized here that's not legal in more stringent dietary countries, like Germany, actually, where these dogs are from. Germany's
Right.
super stringent about food. Germany's super stringent about their cars, right? German cars have super precise measurements. They're the same way with their dogs. And so um, I guess, I'm not able to live on a homestead and farm everything in the world, and that's all really cool. And like I respect people that do that. We're actually moving in about a week, and we'll have enough area to set up some more kennels and train dogs a lot more, and set up a garden and stuff just to get some fresh produce of our own. But I guess what I mean by that, I primarily focus on meat because that's what I can harvest, right? I suppose I can harvest fruits and vegetables and grow my own stuff, but to me, I'm already there with the dogs. I had a friend at school ask me like, "Is it about money?" And I said, "Oh no, dude." I said this pheasant and rabbit and quail and all this other stuff I'm eating has got to cost like $200 a pound when it's all said and done. But
Yeah.
I was like, it's not cheap at all, but I'm already doing it. And I think it's probably better for me than whatever meat I can buy in a store. And so I try to eat as much of it as I can. I did the math this year, and we ended up with just over 60 meals put away, like dinners, and that was 2 pounds of meat or more of either rabbit or pheasant or quail, um, which I was really proud of. Now a lot of that's pheasant, and that takes up a good chunk of that weight, but and then on top of that, so that's 60. And so this is just how my brain works. It's like, all right, I have 305 other days to account for. How do I do that? Deer meat. And so we eat deer meat probably, I would say, half the year, probably 180-ish days a year. Um, and we were already doing that. So we were just buying chicken and stuff. And really, a lot of this idea came from a buddy in South Dakota that has Drahthaars, and he told me that they've never bought chicken. They eat pheasant the way that we eat deer meat. Like we don't buy beef, they don't buy chicken. They eat pheasant. And I was like, well, I've already got the deer meat. If I could just procure enough pheasants, we could theoretically eat pheasant, deer, rabbit, and quail wild year round. And so didn't quite get there this year. I could always do it just by supplementing deer. We could eat more and more deer meat. But uh, yeah, next year I'm hoping to be able to get enough pheasants to be able to fulfill that. But yeah, does that I suppose that probably answers your question because that's a really long answer.
No, I love it. Yeah, I was just honestly curious because me and my wife really like to focus on that as well, more of the organic lifestyle of things. Like you said, especially here in the United States, we got a lot of preservatives. Everything's got herbicides. I mean,
Yeah, and man,
pesticides.
we try, dude. So eating organic from the grocery store is tough, and it on your wallet first. We go to the farmers market and try to get everything try to get various things at the farmers market, honeys and vegetables and fruits that are in season. But yeah, man, it's tough. And so I guess my theory is kind of like, well, if I can eat all organic meat, at least that's a start,
That's the
right?
way.
And that, I'm already doing that. I thought that was so funny when he's like, do y'all do so? What it was is his wife is from Nicaragua, and so she's like pretty unfamiliar with the whole hunting culture, right? And so she was asking him questions about it. She's like, "Does he do it to save money?" And so he came and asked me, he's like, "Hey, my wife wants to know if you do this to save money." I was like, "Oh, not at all." Like,
We're
I
spending.
was like, I was like, in theory, yes. And I was like, and I'm sure there is a way to do it to save money. I was like, but it's mostly about knowing where the meat I'm eating comes from and doing it with my dogs. That it feels like such a pure form of hunting, right? Like doing it with dogs over points, fair chase. Everything I've done here has been on public land too, which makes I take a little bit of pride in that too. Because it's just like, man, any old goober can go out there and try to shoot these birds. But lucky for me, it's not that easy. And good dogs helps a lot. And as I learned throughout the season, just doing it helps a lot. Like you said, learning new country's tough, man. It's real tough. I learned that in Montana. I went up to Montana thinking like, oh, I'm about to find birds galore. I'm just gonna. Everybody talks about Montana. This is gonna be awesome. Not, dude. Oh my god. I walked and walked and walked, and I found birds. But just knew, the Huns were eating us up in the sage flats. My dogs didn't know what to do with Huns running on them like that, and they'd see them get into a flat part where it was clear, and they'd see the bird, and that was game over. They were chasing it, and I didn't get a shot. I'm still mad at hunts. I've never killed a hunt, and I have shot at a lot of them. Uh, we got into the shark tails real good and had a great time with that, but no hunts. Um,
They're a bit of a pain, I'll tell you that. We got a pretty good population here in Utah, and that in Chucker, and it's a different ball game for sure.
oh man, I did that. So yeah, that's what I've read about chukar. Chukar are fun to shoot. They're fun birds to train with, is what it is. They're good. They're easy birds to keep alive and train dogs with. And so I had some chukar, and I was like, man, I might want to go chukar hunt. And I started looking into that, and like Y'all must hate yourselves to do that, dude.
Sometimes it gets intense, man. Some of those guys out there, it's all they do.
Well, and it's like it seems like it's a test of like who can do the hardest stuff. It's like, well, I walked straight uphill more than you did.
Pretty much, that's what it comes down to.
My dogs pointed up, and we went up more hill than y'all went up. But
Pretty
at the end of
much.
the day, it looks super hard, man. It's super challenging, and I'm not cracking on it at all. I want to do it. I just gotta get on a stair climber for a year or so.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, here in Utah, we're we we got it pretty good over here, I'd say. I mean, get to hunt birds between September 1 to February 15th with a whole bunch of variety of like I said, huns, chuckers. And then you got your pheasant, and then a whole bunch of our variety of grouse. So I mean, it's got the diversity for sure.
What's your public land situation look like? You might sell me on coming over there next year.
Hey, we got if I remember right, roughly 75 to 85% public land, depending on the source that you get that from.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
Utah ranks. We're one of the. I can't remember which state has the most. Well, Alaska, of course, #1 with public land, but I believe Utah is at least in top 5 with the most.
Yeah. Kansas actually doesn't have that much public land by nature of like it being owned by the government, but they do a ton of walk-in hunting area program. And so they just lease land back from people. I've actually gotten super interested in how they what that process is like because man, I've gone to a lot of walk-in hunting area that's just like this is literally a plowed field. There's nothing, there's no wild game anywhere here. How can they get money from the state for this to be a hunting area? They're farming it. But so I've done some research on that, but yeah, that's there's lots of area to hunt. Montana says it has a ton. South Dakota has a lot of walk-in. Uh, but yeah, that's pretty much my like qualifications are like bird numbers and access to land. And I'm I'm game to go anywhere, man. It's that's what's so cool about it. And that's why I kind of say the like rough shooter thing. It's like with these dogs are literally built to just hunt, right? People ask, what do they hunt? I'll say they'll hunt you if I train them to.
I love it.
It's just a matter of what do I want them to do and what you expose them to, And my dogs have become just jam up rabbit dogs. Living here in Kansas, we have a great rabbit population. Uh, you could just about put them with a pack of beagles and they'll circle them back to you. It's fun. But I go out hunting and it's literally just I don't know quite, depending on where we are, I don't know what we're gonna find. It could be a porcupine, it could be a raccoon that my dog just brings back to me dead. That's happened before. You'll kind of hear a little tussle and then the dog comes running up with a dead raccoon. Like, all right,
There we go.
good job, right? Uh, this year, my female came caught a wild rabbit on the run, a wild cottontail, which I had somebody tell me, like, I think a dog could catch a jack, but not a cottontail. And this had just happened. And I said, man, if I didn't have somebody with me to witness this, I wouldn't tell you this. But I swear to you, my dog caught a cottontail this year. And he was like, I'll be damned.
It's like, dang, there it is.
I was like, dude, it was impressive. And all it was the rabbit zigged when it should have zagged and it got caught.
Hey, but it's still got it.
And then about an hour later, she came running up to me with a rooster in her mouth that we didn't find any shots on. I think she caught it too, which isn't the best thing in the world for your dog to be quite literally catching wild birds. You never want your dog to catch birds, but I guess if they're wild, I don't know, it could be worse. But
Things happen.
So wherever I'm at, man, if there's public land, if there's a season and stuff to hunt, I don't like going and doing death marches for nothing. But if there's something around, the dogs will kick it up, and it's always a fun time to see what happens next.
Hey, that's awesome, man. Well, this has been a lot of fun being able to get to know you, your journey within upland game and then hunting in general. Um, but kind of closing this up, I always ask every guest this question before we wrap up, and it is, what kind of guidance or any advice would you give to new new upland game hunters or people who have been in the field?
Or people who have been in it.
Yeah.
So I think I have kind of separate advice. For newer people, man, I think something that I wanted to shortcut was asking people, where, not necessarily where to go, but like how to do it, where to, like, all right, what do I need to do? And it's like, dude, nobody can explain to you how to hunt upland game. Nobody, you can't read books. Nobody can talk you through it. People can give you a general idea of what to look for, but there's so much that you have to figure out on your own how it operates. Uh, for people that have been into it for a while, I guess I would point this towards dogs, because this is the thing that I don't quite feel like I'm in a place to give experienced upland hunters a ton of advice. But I will give dog handlers some advice in general, and that's to just shut up and let your dog hunt. Um, I think people in general overhandle their dogs. And like I said earlier, these dogs, especially if you have a well-bred hunting breed, a setter, a Drahthaar, pointer, GSP, whatever, like the dog knows what it's doing. You don't need to holler whoa at it 50 times. Like, it's not helping. Neither is you whistling and hollering at the dog and overhandling it. Just let the dogs work, and let the dogs handle, and let them figure out how to hunt. Uh, and you'll be much, much happier about it. And I say that having done both, and felt the rewards of having the dog that learned by me just shutting up and putting the whistle in my pocket.
Hey, I think that's great advice on both ends of the spectrum, and that's why I asked this question, because I love to hear the advice that you guys have and being able to share that with others. I feel like that's one of the best things about the upland game community, is being able to give advice and build a community and being able to help one another with what we need. So I appreciate that, man, and your advice, and for your willingness to come on and give your time, and so we could get to know you and what you do. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely enjoyed it.
Thank you again, everyone, for listening to the Bird Camp Radio podcast. Before you go, we need to release Alec's time for the rapid fire around the campfire game. Alec, your time was 51.41 seconds, which puts you in 15th place on the leaderboard. Thank you again, everyone. We'll see you next week. You've been listening to Bird Camp Radio, where the high pines, marsh valleys, sagebrush seas, shelf rock ledges always call us back. Until next time, keep your dogs close, your shot true, and your campfire stories ready to share. We'll see you back at camp. Don't miss out on the next episode, where we'll host our next guest on the podcast. You don't want to miss this one. Thank you.